Hello everybody and welcome to the news here on the Chris Pritchard Show. We're going to talk about all things cycling in the next 10 to 15 minutes. However, I'll be honest, it's been a quiet weekend with cycling news. Not a great deal has gone off. While I say that, I've not even really had a look to see what has been going off. In fact, before this starts, let's just have a catch up on what's been going off, and I'll bring you some random cycling news. How did I manage to go through a whole weekend without knowing any of that happened? What the? Of course I knew. What a bloody weekend of cycling it was. Unbelievable. Both for the amazing reasons and for the shitty reasons that we will talk about. We'll get into stage 3 shortly because, oh my gosh. If you had Geraint Thomas in the sweepstake, crashing on stage 3, well done, congratulations, you have won. Currently, as I'm recording this, he's still in the race. Is that going to be the case by the end of the stage? Who knows? We're probably not going to find out till tomorrow morning. We'll talk about stage 3 shortly. And again, no spoilers in that thumbnail or that title. So for that, you should give me a like. All right? But first up, let's talk about what happened at the weekend. Before we get into the incident of the weekend, let's talk about the race results. I mean, that whole incident and the 2 big crashes on the first stage really marred the rest of the weekend. There were some amazing results that deserved to be shouted about, but we didn't really get to shout about them because of what happened, and there was so much attention on what happened. However, Julian Alaphilippe on stage 1 took the yellow jersey, gave France their first stage win straight out of the bag. Stage 1, bosh, have that. Put himself into yellow. Nobody saw it coming. Well, I say no one saw it coming. He was there. He was in the mix prior to the stage starting. However, it looked like all the stars were aligning for me personally to see Mathieu van der Poel take that yellow jersey, take that first stage win. And listen, I know we talk a lot about those limited edition kits that we seem to be seeing a lot at Grand Tours. You've got Jumbo-Visma currently in their darker shade of, well, it's not a darker shade of yellow, is it? It's just black with hints of yellow, so it doesn't clash with the yellow jersey. You've had the Rafa Palace collab. You saw another EF Pro Cycling kit at this year's Giro. Who was the other team that had another kit? Vini Fantini, Israel Startup Nation. They had a limited edition kit, but you've got to say, the Alpecin Fenix kit on stage 1 of this year's Tour de France knocks the ball out of the park. That was the classiest of classy kits. A nod to Raymond Poulidor, who, right, let me get this right, he's Mathieu van der Poel's granddad, right? Mathieu van der Poel's dad raced the Tour de France. He put himself into yellow at some point, I think. So the stars were aligned for Mathieu van der Poel, but Julian Alaphilippe went, not a chance, son. Not a chance. We're in France. This finish is mine. Boom. 2K, 2.2, 2K to go, something like that. He just went. Deceuninck Quickstep drove it so hard along the bottom into that climb. No one could do anything. And I thought it was a matter of everyone just looking at him going, what a knobhead. He's attacking so far out, he ain't got a prayer. Little did they know that he knew exactly what he was doing. He timed it to absolute perfection, put time into the rest of the riders, managed to sit up, take the victory, and there was no one anywhere near him. Wout van Aert, clearly not on the form we thought he was. Probably going to come good towards the end as he's peaking for the Olympics. Mathieu van der Poel, we were expecting something from him. Positioned himself terribly at the bottom of the climb, but that was just down to the fact that he didn't have the legs. Who'd have thought it? Mathieu van der Poel is human. Crazy. So he didn't have the legs. He tried to push himself up. He got near the front of the group, but then just didn't have anything when Julian Alaphilippe went. It was a cracking opening stage. Same can be said for stage 2, and Mathieu van der Poel clearly found his legs because he managed to take the victory this time. We thought it was a repeat of stage 1. It wasn't. I mean, you know all this, but I'm just recapping it all. Mathieu van der Poel took the victory. He put himself into the yellow jersey after taking those time bonuses and putting in enough time between him, Alaphilippe, and the rest of the peloton to put himself into yellow. And I've got to say, he's looking bloody classy in yellow today. If anyone deserves it, well, they all deserve to be in it, don't they, really? Because they all really work their arses off. But there's something special about him being in yellow today. Is he going to keep it? Potentially. How long is he going to keep it for? Who knows? Leave your comments. down below. Now, obviously, controversy, drama, that's exactly what we build this channel on. We do it for the clicks, we do it for the views. But I saw the event live as it happened on Saturday, and my first instinct, and my instinct now, is to just ream her out, just drill her a new one, because, sorry, that's me assuming somebody's gender as well, and I really shouldn't do that. They should be reamed a new one. They should be getting the full force of the Chris vitriol. However, I don't think there's any need for that. And I know you might have come for that, but I think there's enough people on Twitter and social media that have gone in hard, and nobody intentionally does that, right? So you've got to remember that. She didn't intentionally go out there to purposefully destroy that whole peloton. The event probably got the better of her. The thought of being on TV probably got the better of her. The fact that she had a sign and she wanted to make sure she got on TV probably got the better of her. They probably got the better of them. And it just all came together in this horrible whirlwind of destruction. The frustrating thing is, when you watch, is it Edu Schelling who crosses the line to take the com points? I can't remember if it was him or somebody else, but you can see her at the side of the road, stood exactly where she should be, doing exactly what they should be doing, right? Stood at the side of the road, not penetrating the road, just standing exactly where they need to. And then all of a sudden the peloton comes through. It's a completely different kettle of fish. But again, this could be a cycling fan. Everyone's slagging this person off, saying not really a cycling fan, because if they were, they wouldn't have done it. They just wanted to get onto. You don't know that she isn't. They aren't a huge, massive cycling fan that follows the Tour de France around. You just don't know that. But you can't help thinking that if they were, maybe they would have had the foresight to have realised what was about to happen as that peloton came through. Because watching one rider come through and it was on a slight climb, you're forgiven for thinking that maybe that's how fast the rest of the peloton's going to come through. That one rider in the middle of the road, they're not taking up much road there. I reckon I could just stick this sign out just a little bit further so I can make sure I get on TV. But what people don't realise is how quick that peloton comes at you, especially when you're not looking at it. And that's the stupid thing. Person wasn't even we've been through all this. Everybody knows. You don't need me to say, idiot wasn't looking, idiot held the sign out too far. But of all the things to cause riders to retire, it should never, ever, 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 ever be fans. As if there's not enough to contend with already, with some of these routes, with shitty road surfaces, with bollards, with motorcycles, with team cars, with commissaires, with medics cars, with TV cars, with TV motorbikes, with photographers. There's enough to contend with without fans getting in the way, and they should never get in the way. So here's a question. Is it time we banned fans from cycling? Controversial. I'm kidding. We'll never ban fans. But here's the thing, right? And a lot of people go, well, you can't stop someone standing at the side of a road during a cycling race. And that's right, but I know a place where if you go onto the road, which is a public road, you get put in jail. I know a place where you wouldn't go anywhere near the road when there was a race taking place. That's the Isle of Man TT. Now that's a public road, But people that go to the Isle of Man TT know the dangers. It's dangerous enough standing at the side of the road during that event. But you take one step onto that road, I know lots of people that have been arrested and put in jail because they trespassed. Here's my opinion on what they should do to sort that. It sounds simple. I don't know if it'd be legal, and I don't know if they'd ever be able to do it. Whether it's government, police, local council, whatever it is, they have a rolling system like that's 2 kilometers ahead of the break, 2 kilometers behind the broom wagon, right? And in this space here that travels around the roads, this space is private property owned by the ASO or whatever. Yes, it's on private roads, but when this policeman passes, it becomes illegal to step onto that piece of road between him and this guy. You step onto the road, you get arrested. Massive fine, or you get thrown in jail for a day or two. That's going to stop people doing anything stupid, i.e. running across the road as the riders come towards them, because we've seen that in the past. Fans getting too close to riders. And I know everybody wants to get involved and be part of it and yay, push the riders and shout at them, but no. Where else? Where else in the world of sport can fans physically touch their idols? Stand next to them, push them, assist them along the way. Hold signs out in front of them and allow them to get knocked off. They don't do it anyway, do they? We could go around in circles on this one, but as ever, it's a hot topic, it's a hot potato, and I want to get your comments on it. What do you think to that event? What should happen to that person? Do you think that person's been punished enough that, not that they should go unpunished now, but is it fair? Is it fair? Or has justice been served because of the vitriol that they had to put up with across the internet? But then again, if they don't read the internet, they'll feel like they've got away with it scot-free. So it's a difficult one, isn't it? You kind of just go, knobhead, but then just leave the ASO, the commissaires, the police people, France in general to sort that out. I don't know. Leave your comments down below and let's talk about the big news coming out of stage 3. Is it big news though, or were we expecting it? Geraint Thomas has a serious injury at this year's Tour de France. Oosh. So currently, as I'm recording this, the race is still on stage 3. It's about 1 minute and 50 from the peloton to the break that's up the road. About 130 kilometers to go in the stage. Geraint Thomas came down. Looking at the replay, it looks like he was unaware or wasn't ready for a slight speed hump in the road. You can just see Kwiatkowski just raise himself up as he obviously clears or goes over this speed bump. Now, I couldn't work out if G had tried to bunny hop it or was completely unaware of it, and as he's hit it, he's kind of like forced him up and out of the saddle, because you see his head raise up and then loses the front end. Down he goes. Unsurprisingly, the other magnet to crashes at the minute is Tony Martin. Tony Martin came down. Tony Martin's teammate, Robert Hessing, he was involved. He's pulled out of the race. So a crash caused by, I don't want to say ineptitude by G. It's probably not the case. Probably wasn't concentrating. Probably just misjudged it. Could have been anything. As I say, the race is still going on. So I don't quite know exactly what happened, what caused it. But it does look like it was his fault taking down those riders. And the worst off of them was Robert Hessing, who pulled out there and then. G did look like he was in pain. It looked like he was calling it a day. The medics had him on the floor. It looked like it looked again on the replays potentially that he'd dislocated his shoulder and his shoulder got popped back into place. You can't help thinking that if it was a collarbone, with 130 kilometers to go, now he's ridden with a broken hip before, but riding with a collarbone injury must be one of the most painful things in the world. And as the stage has gone on, he seems to be getting a little more comfortable with it. Whether that'll be the case towards the end, I don't know. But regardless of whether he makes it to the end of stage 3 today, you can't help thinking that that's G's tour over and done with in terms of GC. He was already behind on GC. Again, around 30 seconds, not a massive amount, but still enough that you know, you look at the time trialing ability of Pogačar and Roglic, and that's probably where he's going to make most of the time up on them. He's not going to make 30 seconds up, I don't think, on those guys. And now with this injury, I don't know. So where do we go from there? Who do we go for now? Because Carapaz is slightly behind him. Do we give it to Carapaz? Do we give the lead to Carapaz now after stage 3 and say, there you go? Or do we have a little bit more faith in G and hope that he can recover from this? But again, you think of your body recovering from the daily physical activity of the Tour de France stage. That in itself is difficult. Your body has to put everything into recovering, restoring that glycogen, repairing those muscles, getting you ready for another stage, right? That's taxing enough on the body. That will tax the body to the max when you're not riding. Add into that an injury, inflammation, potential tears, rips, scars, fractures, whatever it might be, we don't know yet. But then trying to recover on top of these, trying to get repaired as well, it's come on. Please prove me wrong, G, please. But I think his Tour de France is over. But as ever, leave your comments down below. Probably won't interest those non-Welsh stroke British fans out there, but what's your opinion? Do you think G will be able to get himself through this tour? He's done it in the past with a broken hip, but is there any point? Is there any point pushing yourself to the absolute limit, knowing that you're not going to go for victory anymore, and you might not be much support for those riders around you? And would you want to support them, knowing that you had probably better form than them, but now because of an injury, you have to play second or third fiddle? Leave your comments down below, and then I'm going to come back shortly when the stage is finished, and we'll talk about the finish, and we'll talk about who won. My money, right here, right now. I don't like him, but I'm going to say it. Arnaud Dumas. That's my pick for today's victory. Transition, and then we'll find out if I was right. All right, got that a little bit wrong. Oh my gosh. I don't even know where to begin with this one. This was an insane stage. Marred by so many crashes. Geraint. There was that small little crash, no crash is small, but that small little crash which involved the Movistar rider and the FDJ rider. After that, we had the Roglic crash. Again, you look at Geraint and he looked pretty injured, but you can't help thinking a much better position to crash 140k to go than at 10k to go for Roglic when everyone is absolutely on the rivet. That means that he hasn't got time to sit around. He has to get back on his bike and he has to go. And luckily for him, his team just swarmed around him. Jumbo-Visma, clearly the biggest losers of today. They lost Hessing, they've lost time on the GC, but luckily Roglic made it to the end. After that, we had that big crash into that left-hander. I don't know who the Bahrain victorious rider was that was down in the middle of the road. He looked like a collarbone, shoulder, arm, something like that. He's definitely not going to be taking part in this unless he managed to get himself back up. I'm relaying this information to you less than 5 minutes after the stage has finished. Then we had the biggest crash of them all, which was Caleb Ewan and Peter Sagan coming together. Now it looked like from the replay that Merlier had just moved out of, I think Jesper Philipsen's wheel. It just moved across to the right. That's where Caleb Ewan was. Touch of wheels. Ewan then moved across into Sagan and down he went. But again, they're almost flat out there. The sprint hasn't technically fully got kicked off yet, but they're about to. He was ready to go down the inside. You could see what Caleb Ewan's tactic was. He wanted that inside line and he wanted to go down the inside of everyone. But he wasn't expecting Merlier to probably come across as much as he did. And it wasn't a deviation from the line. It was literally just his teammate was in front. He drifted off and then he just moved across to shorten his line up across into that right-hand bend. There was no malice involved in it at all. It did look a bit sketchy, to be fair, between Sagan and Caleb Ewan. They were both fighting for the same wheel. I'm not too sure whose wheel that was, but they were both fighting. There was a bit of elbowing going on between them. I think Nasser Bouhanni was in there as well. But, I mean, when it's a big name like Caleb Ewan, it kind of hits home, and you forget that even though domestiques, super domestiques, might be coming to the Tour de France simply to help somebody out, they have to train just as hard as those riders at the front, whether that be GC riders, sprinters, mountain goats, whatever they're going for and their target is. Those domestiques that you just don't even see on TV because they do their job prior to the TV going live, they've got to train just as hard as those other guys. They've got to put everything on the line to make sure they're in the best shape for the Tour de France. But when a big name like Ewan goes down, it kind of hits home that you go, again, it's still too early to guess whether he's going to be starting tomorrow's stage. And if he is, how is the crash going to have affected his mentality going for the next sprint? Is he going to just brush it off, and if he's there tomorrow, he'll do the same thing again? Or will he be just kind of just backing off just a little bit because he's a little bit worried and his confidence has gone a bit? You just don't know, but it kind of hits home that guy's Tour de France could be over now. Like, everything he's been working towards for the past year, gone. Same with Geraint, when we saw him crash at 140k to go. Dislocated shoulder. It's not the first time we've seen Geraint have a pretty serious injury, enough to put a lot of people out of a tour. So who knows what's going to happen to him. It'll be interesting to see what happens to him tomorrow. Obviously, the victory went to... What a debut for Alpecin Fenix. Even though there's carnage going off, there's still people doing it right, and there's still people staying out of trouble. And the best place to be is right at the front. Mathieu van der Poel was pulling with around 2k to go in the yellow jersey for Tim Merlier. People were unsure as to whether he would have the form to beat the likes of Ewan, Sagan, Colbrelli, Nacer Bouhanni, Arnaud. I'm glad he didn't win. I'm glad I got that prediction wrong. However, Tim Merlier proved that he has got form. Alpecin Fenix finished first and second. Jasper Philipsen, whoever he is, Philipsen, that's the guy. Philipsen led him out. He led him out, pulled over, realised that there'd been a crash behind and a gap had opened up, so he kicked back into a sprint. He managed to finish second. Nacer Bouhanni was in third. Brilliant day for Alpecin Fenix. They hold on to the yellow jersey. But in terms of GC, in terms of Caleb Ewan's Tour de France, it's just all exploded. I'm not too sure what the GC looks like exactly right now, so with this nice little overlay and this new voiceover, I'm going to tell you exactly what's happening in the GC state of play. God bless Pro Cycling Stats. ProCyclingStats.com. Go and check it out. One of the best places to get your cycling information. Better than this place. Anyway, as you can see, Mathieu van der Poel still leads the way. 8 seconds ahead now of Julian Alaphilippe. That wouldn't have changed actually because they came across in the group together. Up 15 places, both Richard Carapaz managed to keep himself out of trouble, and Wout van Aert kept himself out of trouble, got himself over the line in that front group, 31 seconds behind Mathieu van der Poel. Wilco Kelderman, Tadej Pogacar, he lost time today. Enric Mas, I think that was the rider involved in the crash between him and an FDJ rider. But you can see how this is starting to change. Looking out for more of the GC riders. Quintana, come on. Nibali's up there into the top 10 now, and then you've got to go all the way down to, I don't know, they've not filled the rest of it in. Anyway, if you look at the overall results of this stage, Pogacar came across the line in a group containing Geraint Thomas. So they didn't lose any time to each other. Port was also in that group, as was Guillaume Martin. And then the group containing Primož Roglic was 1 minute 21 down on the eventual winner. Also in there, Mike Turnison, Alejandro Valverde, Dylan Teuns was in there, Kruijswijk, as well as Miguel Angel Lopez. So you've got to say the biggest winners for that GC battle, Julian Alaphilippe keeping himself out of trouble all day. The look of the green jersey, is that a thing? I don't know. Maybe it is, but he managed to keep himself out of trouble all day. Luckily, Mathieu van der Poel did as well in that yellow jersey. But Richard Carapaz managed to keep himself out of trouble, position himself in the right place to make sure that he was coming over the line with that front group. So he was definitely the luckiest of those riders in the main GC hunt. What's going to happen tomorrow, though? Who's going to be taken to the start line tomorrow? I have no idea. Hopefully, though, fingers crossed, all those riders that were involved in any crashes today will be fine and they can take to the start line. There's going to be a few broken bones. There's going to be a few sore heads, sore legs, sore arms, sore shoulders, sore bums. But that's not going to stop them taking to the start line tomorrow. So I wish all of them a speedy recovery. Please, as much as it's great that we have drama, please just stop bloody crashing, lads. But the question they were talking about towards the end of the broadcast over on GCN and Eurosport is Bernie Eisel was talking about the run into the finish. Now, there was a couple of hairpins in there. There was a couple of 90-degree right angle turns. What do we think to sterilising the last 5 kilometres of a race to make sure that they're finishing on a dual carriageway, a motorway, a freeway, somewhere where it's nice and wide and the riders can space out a little bit? Or do you think these technical finishers produce better, closer racing? The riders should... I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if making them a little more sterile would make sure that every rider gets to the finish, which is great, but would it take away from the spectacle of it? There's nothing finer than seeing a bunch of highly skilled professionals navigate their way through tight, twisty roads to try and get to the finish line ahead of everybody else. But in this day and age, is it a different kind of race where people's finish lines are scattered throughout the whole of that last 5 kilometres? Mathieu van der Poel's, for instance, his finish line potentially was with 2k to go. Smash yourself for 500, 600 metres with 2k to go. Another teammate, his finish line is with 1 kilometre to go. So you've got riders absolutely smashing the pace. So it becomes a race within a race to try and get to the last 5k, to try and get to the last 3, to 2, to 1. And you've got riders obliterating themselves knowing that they haven't got to go any further. So it just ups the pace and ups the pace and ups the pace. And you've got riders behind getting more and more tired, trying to focus on their effort and trying not to make a mistake. And eventually, inevitably, we see riders making a mistake, whether that's crossing a wheel, just going too fast into a turn, whatever it might be, and riders are crashing. But is that all part of it? Should the riders be riding to the limits of the road and not just hoping for the best? I don't know. Leave your comments down below. What a cracking stage, probably for all the wrong reasons. 3 stages down in the Tour de France, and there's been 3 crazy stages with lots of crashes in, and we don't appreciate that. Let's have a nice calm day tomorrow, but I've got a feeling it's not going to be. Make sure, if you've not done already, hit that like button. Please, if you've not done already, hit that subscribe button. We've got Tour de France news coming out as and when I can be bothered. Just so happens I could be bothered today, and a lot happened. Awesome. Join me again tomorrow for another video. Oosh.